Okay, hi everyone. Okay, sorry, we're going to be starting to talk about cookies and accessibility. You can see there is a pile of cookies. And the reason for that is some of the work that Ryan has been doing at Hammersmith and Fulham. So Ryan's going to just talk through, just give us a little bit of context before we go into breakout groups.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So we recently been working on a new foster insight, or I've been working on a new foster insight for Foster with West London, collaboration between 8 different councils. And we've built the site using microsites. I think it's 5th microsite maybe. And obviously as part of building up those other microsites, we've obviously improved the accessibility around there. But with this particular site, there are no videos, there are no PDFs. So in terms of content, it's accessible. The code, in theory, should be accessible because it's already on microsites. So when it came to writing the accessibility statement, I was a bit hesitant to say that it was fully compliant, just because, as it's been mentioned today, like we all use different tools, they all pick up different things. So because I did it, and this whole project was rushed. It was done within less than 8 weeks. Like I just didn't want to say this site is fully compliant. So obviously I've mentioned before stuff around events, which obviously picked up on once I put them in, and that there were some accessibility issues there. But it did prompt me to look at Cookiebot as well. And I'd realized that actually we've been using Cookiebot since 2021, but we'd never actually done an accessibility audit on it. And I raised my hands up at that. So when I dived into it, I was quite shocked by how poor the widget is in the corner. I'll just put a link in the chat to the Foster Insight and to the accessibility statement so you can see the issues. The main thing that I picked up on that would be like a serious issue is that if you're a keyboard only user tabbing around, in fact, I'll share my screen and demonstrate actually this one, and then we can jump in. If that's okay. So yeah, it's here in the corner. Let me just get to it. Oops. Sorry about this. Did it come? Okay, yeah, it came up there. The focus ring's a bit poor on this page, but yeah, when you go to change your consent, so far so good. If I then select any of these options, so allow all, allow selection or deny, I'll just do allow selection. Taking its sweet time to close down. Yeah, it closes down, but then the focus stays within it. And so if you're a keyboard only user, you have no idea where the focus is. If you're using a screen reader, obviously you would hear all of the options. So at some point you would click, okay, the focus is still inside Cookiebot. So yeah, you may not be able to hear it. So for the background noise, but I'm still tabbing, pressing the tab key, and obviously nothing's happening, and that's because it's trapped inside the widget. So that's like one of the biggest accessibility fails you can have. So that's what's prompted me to, well, I've contacted Cookiebot on a different issue when I first did the test, but I can't remember. I think it's Tom from Anatech has reported this issue to Cookiebot, and they've just said, obviously, they know their tool's not 100% compliant. They've passed it on to their engineers, but they can't give us a time frame as to when this stuff will be fixed. So with that in mind, obviously, I've put that into our accessibility statement, and you can see all the other issues there as well that's wrong with Cookiebot. But I have said at the bottom, the company are aware of the issues, but don't have a timeline. So we're looking at alternative tools. So I've emailed Graham because I know they use a different tool on their microsites, and yeah, I've started to look at other tools with different set of criteria, but it's just obviously trying to marry up that the tool being accessible, but then meeting all of the other requirements. Like we do advertising on this site, so it needs to fit with that, and obviously integration options as well. So yeah, I thought I was there in terms of a different one, but there's a few other suppliers out there that I need to review and stuff. But yeah, it would be interesting when we get into the breakout sessions just to find out other people's experiences around looking at the accessibility of their cookie consent tools, and what their plans are in the future around stuff like YouTube or Google Maps if you use that, and moving away from cookies, and how that then affects, yeah, again, looking at the accessibility of whatever tools you're looking to move towards, and just weighing up all of the different legislations and requirements to find that like best option for you.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan. That was a great intro. What I thought we'd do is just, yeah, as Ryan said, like go into a couple of breakouts with some prompt questions sort of related to this topic, and then we'll come back and, you know, sort of bring it together. I'll just share screen. Apparently there's a way of like marrying up a Miro frames with breakout rooms, but I have not trialed it yet. But that looks quite fun. So the prompts are basically, and you don't have to answer all these questions, they're really jumping off points for your conversations. We'll have 15 minutes in breakouts. So what cookie, like how do you manage cookies? What tools do you use at the moment? How well does it work? Have you tested for accessibility? And question 2, like where have you hit conflicts? That might be around accessibility or UX or potentially legal requirements around GDPR. 3, how do you manage third-party tools? A good example, like Ryan said, like YouTube, Google Maps, there's obviously loads of others. Like what's the trade-off there? Have you sort of looked at those trade-offs and gone down different routes? And then the 4th question is, may not be relevant, but if you could design like a, you know, the ideal solution, like what would that include or involve? Like, what does that look like? And then we'll come back and sort of, you know, look at what each group have discussed. Hi, folks. I hope I didn't pull you out too dramatically. Sorry about the problems with breakout rooms for Susan and Bavin, and to be booted out at various points. Before we go into sort of more discussion, should we just hear from each group, just a sort of short 30, 60-second summary of what you discussed, and we can go into it a little bit more. Would someone like to do that for room 1? The blue lot. Who's in room 1?
I can do that if you want.
Yeah,
I think we were room 1, weren't we? Whoever's with me.
You're in Sheffield. Looks like that was you. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember the names of one. There's one of the Marias was writing on there. Oh yeah, so we use Civic UK.
Yeah.
And Bracknell uses Digital Control Room.
Yeah.
We thought that Bracknell's looked a lot cleaner and simpler and more in line with gov.uk's than Sheffield's one. Civic UK, in particular when you're on mobile, fills up your whole mobile screen and gets in the way, whereas the Bracknell Forest one is just a banner at the top and you can scroll past. Neither of us had particularly considered the access needs of it too much. I think me in particular as well, I think I just assumed it was fine because that's what we were using as a local authority. So now it's got me thinking maybe we should be checking that. So just created more work for me or someone else, haven't I? I think yeah, we ended up having quite a big chat actually about whether people, what happens if someone just ignores that cookie notice, and the fact that quite a lot of people might actually do that, and then they're not actively accepting cookies. Does that mean that things like Google Analytics aren't being tracked. And for me in particular, I'm wondering if that's why sometimes some of my sites have a surprisingly low hit rate after I've launched them. And I always just assume it's because the service isn't promoting them properly, and I'll be cursing about them. But actually, like, is it that you have to actually open the cookie notice, and in our one, you have to physically click the button that says I accept analytics cookies, and I can't imagine why anyone would do that. So, is that why?
Yeah.
And then we talked about managing tools. Oh, conflict. We did talk about conflicts, didn't we? Yeah, we said how. So I tested our cookie banner with Royal Society for the Blind in Sheffield, and they had said, yeah, it is annoying. It's over the top. It gets in the way, especially when you're in mobile. And most users at the Society for the Blind are really zoomed in like 200, 300%, and they didn't like it. And it was kind of like, and there were other things they didn't like, which we were able to change. But with that, I think we were just kind of like, sorry, we've got to have that. Where like they complained about a newsletter pop up, and actually we went away and thought about that, and we have changed bits around that. But the cookie notice, we felt like we couldn't. But then having seen other cookie notices that are less intrusive, maybe we can. I don't know. It's not my decision or something I know too much about, to be honest. And then managing tools. We've moved away from embedding maps in sites. We're actually replacing all of the embedded maps on the sheffield.gov.uk site, and linking externally to ArcGIS maps. Again, for kind of like accessibility, particularly on mobile, when like scrolling through and they kind of get in the way and you can get stuck in there. And then, yeah, we talked about, I should have realized this, but I haven't. But like when you're embedding a YouTube video in there, you are then subjecting yourself or subjecting the user to their cookies. I hadn't ever considered that, but yeah. And I always use the embedded YouTube videos as one of the selling points of microsites, and say how great that is that people can put their videos on there and embed them in there. But yeah, how much are they even aware? They're probably, if I'm not aware, they're not aware that we're doing that.
Thanks, Graham. That was great. How about room 2? Should we hear about what room 2 discussed?
Yeah, we didn't get onto the fourth question though. Sorry.
Yes. Did you
Yeah.
want to say
No, sorry.
about?
But no, we didn't get onto that one. Sorry.
That's fine.
Although we did say that we liked it being like clearer and simpler and kind of less intrusive and at the top. But then the downside of that might be that you might be more likely to ignore it.
Yeah.
But
That's a great link. Thank you.
Just on some of the stuff that Graham said, just because I don't want to forget it. So there is a video which I mentioned in our group, and it's one of the reasons why we went with Cookiebot. 4 years ago, Anatech did a skills video around GDPR, where they talked about what you just said, and like obviously if you have YouTube videos on your site, then you need to like block them so people can't watch them without giving consent. So I'll share that video, and I've done the link on. I've shared the link from our website as well, so you can see how that works in practice. Let me just get the link to that. But in terms of, because obviously I've emailed you about Civic as well, there is a Drupal module, because I think Aaron was just looking at the GovUK cookie banner. There is a Drupal module that Civic have done based around the Home Office cookie design. So I think you might, I haven't looked too deeply into it. I'll put the links in the chat and on the Miro board, but you should be able to use that, I think, to not only format the banner, but also your actual cookie page as well. It's just something I've seen recently in my research. But in terms of, what we spoke about, so we discovered that Haringey were also using Cookiebot as well, and they're not happy with it for a variety of reasons. So that was good. Brighton have just launched a new cookie banner yesterday. They're using Claro, and Hannah showed us that, and that looks good as well. It looks quite similar actually when you open it up to the Civic one, so the one that Sheffield are using. So it'd be interesting to see what Graham said about mobile, how that one looks on mobile, and if it's all encompassing. And North Devon use the I say the built-in, but the EU compliance module that Drupal comes with. So because Hannah was the one who worked on the Brighton install of Claro, she did mention how tricky it was to style it and get it working how they wanted to. Like you could do work around the CSS, but not the HTML aspects of it, which was quite interesting because it is one of the alternatives that we have looked at, but have since rejected, again, because it doesn't meet all of our requirements, because we do a lot of advertising and remarketing, and Claro doesn't support that. But for other things, yeah, it does seem like a good option. And then again, yeah, we talked about like YouTube as well, and the fact that you need to block cookies and stuff. And well, yeah, I mean, as I said, we do it. I've just put a link in the chat to the page, but yeah, it wasn't something that Brighton or any of the other councils do. And I don't think a lot of people do it. I know GovUK do it, because I was looking, I found the page yesterday actually where they do it. It's an old page. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, you mentioned that good phrase earlier, Aaron, about trade-offs. I think there's a lot of trade-offs around cookies, accessibility, whether or not if you want to, for example, like move away from Google Analytics because it's based on cookies, then use another tool, you then get posed with other issues. For example, like we decided to do or wanted to do that, but then the tools we looked at didn't support like analytics around search in the same way that Google Analytics does. So then you're kind of stuck with that type of thing with the tools you're already using. And then stuff like, yeah, do you put YouTube videos or maps, as like what Graham was just saying, do you have that on your site, or do you just link to it instead just to get around it? But then obviously it's not really the experience you want to give people, because people do want videos embedded on their site and stuff, but then you have to block them. So do you look at using other video players, but then are those video players accessible and all the rest of it? So yeah, there's definitely a lot of trade-offs we're having to do, and I don't think anyone's really found like the perfect answer yet. I don't think anyone will, but yeah, there's a lot of food for thought there. Maybe some stuff the community can work on together.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm curious, I guess maybe Maria, because you obviously worked on lots of sites, whereas, you know, is there anything, and say Michael and Big Blue Door, you know, agencies that are working on lots, and you probably come across this like, it's, you know, every single time, right? So what's the approach, or is it mixed? Is it very much like informed by what the council's already got, or?
Yeah, well, I was saying in our room, the from my side, the issue is I'm not involved in the conversations of which ones are used by which clients. It's just I'm given the site and then I test them, and I don't have any particular accessibility tools with cookies in mind specifically. So it's more manually checking and using the general tools I use like Axe and Lighthouse. So I basically check, can I manually tab around? Do the colors stand out? Are there focus boxes, things like that, screen readers? And are they accepted or rejected?
Are there any that sort of fare better? If you've probably tested a fair few. Are there any that like?
I can't think of any off the top of my head. All I can say is I know one I looked at earlier today used the EU cookie compliance, GDPR compliance, Drupal
module.
Yeah. And that worked fine. So I guess we can go for that as an okay one. But yeah, I can't recall any that are nightmare scenarios off the top of my head.
Maria?
Yeah, we were using our own sort of thing over the top of that one that Michael just mentioned. It's got some like weird role area stuff going on it, but I don't think they're that bad. But actually, I think we're now certainly exploring Civic as like our preferred option. But a lot of them have like the sort of paid for services, third party services will give you options for different ways to display the display the banner, and they are like, some of them are more or less nice. Let's go with. So I think, you know, there's services, and then there's the settings that you set up and all of that kind of thing. But yeah, getting it to integrate with all of the like making sure your YouTube doesn't play until you've hit the right thing, and you know, it's an endless conversation, and it's a lot guided by our like outside of the councils, like how clients want to, how strict they want to be, or how much tracking they are determined to get, or you know, that kind of thing. So it is difficult, and I suspect doesn't need to be as painful as it has turned out to be. Like somehow the whole thing seems very odd. We've ended up in this situation. But that's, you know, that pattern is my preference. The one which doesn't stop you interacting with the website is there. You don't get tracked. Yeah, exactly. It just pushes the content down. You're not, and then you can just ignore it or get annoyed by it as you like, in terms of usability and accessibility and such like. And obviously preference not to track if we don't have to.
Presumably this one is Civic. Presumably Civic is using Civics.
One would hope so.
It looks different to ours though. It's much less intrusive than ours is. That was the first thing I thought when I went to that link.
Right, interesting.
Like we've managed to, ours takes up half, well, maybe a third of the screen when you're on
the sort of one that slides out from the side there, isn't it?
When you're on mobile, it fills the whole screen.
Yeah, but that would be different, just different display options you've got for setting it up.
So maybe we've just gone with an out-the-box one rather than.
Were you saying, Ryan, that Civic have developed a?
I think, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's them or DWP have released their own
and that's a Drupal.org module.
So Civic have attempted to fill this space, whatever they're talking about. Sorry, I'm just speed reading. But they've implemented a DWP pattern for Drupal 8 and 9. I'm sure it must work for 10 now. But yeah, it's basically to do the Gov UK thing. So yeah, I think it's part of their main Civic Control module that you're able to do this. So it is something I do want to test out if we do go with them, to see what that pattern's like.
So where are you reading? Where are you reading?
Devon looks idyllic, by the way.
It looks great, doesn't it? Yeah.
We're gonna be there.
Hold on. So there's.
And I think this is the EU cookie compliance module. So it's a Drupal module. And then Maria, you were saying that Agile Collective have done a little bit of like customization on top of that to make it, tweaked it a little bit, right?
That was what we were doing, but that's not what we're looking at right now.
Now you're looking at Civic.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're past 3 o'clock. I'm just conscious of that. Ryan, do you want to just wrap up with closing words? And it might be that we can share where you get to next month, very, very briefly, and we'll do some other stuff. But
Yeah. I mean, I think some interesting points have been raised today, and it might be something we can continue on Slack. I'm not sure what the appropriate channel would be, if it is accessibility or not, because it seems like there are some wider questions around just cookie consent tools in general and how we use them and implement them correctly. But thank you everyone. I mean, it's been really useful for me as well, just hearing about what other people are saying. And I'll definitely come back next month, hopefully with some progress once people stop DDoSing our website and I can concentrate on stuff. But thank you.